Kristen Hanna's historical novel, The Nightingale, it kicks off with this really striking observation. If I have learned anything in this long life of mine, it is this. In love, we find out who we want to be. In war, we find out who we are. Today, we're really plunging into this powerful idea, exploring how identity gets forged and sometimes, shattered in the crucible of World War II France.
Yeah, that statement, it really captures the profound core of what we're looking at today. We're embarking on, well, an intimate journey into these compelling excerpts from The Nightingale, a narrative that's just so rich with human experience. Our mission here is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from this story, and treat the events the character experiences almost as factual content for our discussion.
What?
Think of it maybe as a shortcut to truly understanding the deep human impact of World War II, especially through the eyes of those who lived it, particularly women whose contributions are, let's face it, often overlooked.
And it promises to be quite a journey. Our story actually starts quite far from the battlefields of the 1940s. It kicks off in 1995 on the Oregon coast, where we meet an elderly woman who's facing her own mortality. And a seemingly simple act, pulling out this old steamer trunk, it becomes this powerful metaphor, really, for unearthing a past she spent, well, a lifetime trying to forget.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just an old box. It's like the Pandora's box, opening a window to this period of immense personal sacrifice. And then there's this invitation to a Passeurs reunion in Paris, a gathering of those incredibly brave people who guided others across dangerous borders to freedom, and that sparks this whole reevaluation of her life.
Yeah, forces her to look back.
Exactly. So we're going to unpack these complex layers of memory, grief, unspoken truths, all the things that shape her reflection, and by extension, our understanding of history, particularly, as you said, the quiet, monumental sacrifices made by women during wartime. It's such a powerful setup, immediately hinting at these hidden histories, these personal battles, that often just don't make it into the big history books.
Yep. It really draws you in immediately, doesn't it? It invites you to question what we think we know about wartime heroism, and well, who gets to write those stories? The novel's framing device, setting it decades after the main events, it establishes right from the start that we're dealing with the echoes, the lingering effects of trauma, and the kind of quiet heroism that often goes completely unacknowledged.
Okay, so let's unpack this journey by going back in time, well before that steamer trunk saw the light of day again. Our story begins in 1939 in the serene and seemingly untouched French countryside.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sort of paint a picture for us? What was life like in Carriveau in the Loire Valley before the storm really hit? What was the vibe?
Right. Imagine Carriveau as this, well, almost impossibly idyllic, peaceful little rural village, tucked away, from the world's bigger worries. The source describes it as barely wide enough for a car, suggesting this really quaint, slow pace of life, a place where time itself seemed to move differently. It's surrounded by fields more likely to be growing hay than grapes, and dotted with these vibrant red poppies and blue cornflowers. And that detail is significant, you see, because it emphasizes this agrarian simplicity. It's so far removed from the hustle and bustle of Paris or the political tensions brewing across Europe. It's a world that feels incredibly vulnerable, actually, precisely because of its untouched beauty.
And right at the heart of this tranquility, we find Vianne Mauriac. She's introduced as Antoine's wife, Sophie's mother, and her life is portrayed with this sun-warmed contentment. We see her having picnics by the river, engaging in quiet chats, doing simple domestic things like washing dishes with Sophie every night, almost like a ritual.
Yeah, the rhythm of normal life.
Exactly. It's a very vivid picture of domestic bliss, of a woman deeply invested in her family, her home, and the image of her protecting herself from the sun with that wide-brimmed straw hat.
Mm.
It perfectly symbolizes her desire for normalcy. Right? Her wish to shield herself and her daughter from anything that might disrupt their peaceful little bubble. She really embodies this deep longing for stability, for their quiet, beautiful life to just continue.
But that desire for normalcy, it's challenged almost immediately. There's this first ripple of fear, a premonition that cuts right through their idyllic world. Antoine's stark warning, Hitler will suck us all into his war soon. It introduces this really unsettling reality.
Yeah, jarring.
And what's really telling is Vianne's immediate reaction, this deep-seated desire to just ignore it, to maintain that peaceful bubble at all costs. This isn't just denial, I think. It highlights a really common human coping mechanism. When you're faced with an overwhelming, uncontrollable threat, you just wish it away. You cling to the familiar, believe that if you don't acknowledge the monster, maybe it can't truly reach you. It really sets her path, this ongoing struggle to preserve what she has in the face of encroaching chaos.
And this is where the narrative really starts to draw a sharp contrast, because while Vianne is clinging desperately to the familiar, her younger sister, Isabelle Rossignol, she embodies a completely different, almost restless spirit. She's in Paris, stuck at a finishing school, a setting of forced politeness and boring discussions about allons sans lace,
Oh,
a
yes.
world that just clashes intensely with her defiant, rebellious nature. Her muttered merde isn't just a swear word. It's brilliant, concise foreshadowing, right? It immediately signals this defiant, independent character she's about to become.
And what's truly fascinating here is how the novel grounds Isabel's rebellious spirit in her past. Isabel carries this deep weight of, well, past abandonment. She has these blurry images of people crying from her childhood, her mother telling her to hold tightly to her sister's hand. But crucially, the narrative reveals Isabel felt Vianne was as quick to abandon Isabel as Papa had been.
Oh, okay.
This deep-seated feeling of being left behind, this perceived lack of connection, it seems to fuel her restless energy and her desperate longing for a sense of belonging, for purpose. It's a really critical detail for understanding her later, sometimes impulsive, actions.
So, completely unlike Vianne, who desperately clings to normalcy and domestic peace, Isabel actually longs for purpose within the impending conflict. She's already suggesting roles for herself, envisioning action, ambulance driver, maybe breaking secret codes, or even charming the enemy.
Right, she wants in.
Exactly. This early desire for action, for agency, to be part of something bigger than herself, it immediately sets her apart from her sister. It's almost as if she's looking for a way to prove her worth, maybe, to find a place where her wild spirit can actually be channeled productively, perhaps even to be indispensable in a way she never felt she was in her personal life.
And this foundational difference in their characters, one striving for preservation, the other for purposeful engagement, it's going to truly define their radically divergent paths once the war actually arrives. It highlights how different people respond to these huge existential threats, shaping not only their actions, but their very sense of who they are. It's a powerful exploration of the various facets of courage and adaptation.
And chaos, it certainly does arrive. Let's shift focus now to the stark reality of the German invasion. The fall of Paris itself is depicted with such shocking speed that there's this profound disbelief among people. Germans are coming into Paris. Impossible.
Yeah.
Feels like a nightmare that suddenly become terrifyingly real almost overnight.
The initial impact on individuals is just brutal, and Isabel experiences the terror of the first air raid directly. The source vividly describes screeching bombs, the ground vibrating, cellar walls shaking, and that suffocating primal smell of mildew and body odor and fear.
Oh, visceral.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
raw, visceral trauma dust falling from the ceiling, a baby crying uncontrollably nearby. This isn't abstract news from afar. It's a terrifying physical and psychological assault, stripping away any lingering illusions of safety or distance from the war. It shows you the immediate, overwhelming reality of war on ordinary civilians.
Her father's reaction to this new reality is particularly striking, isn't it? Almost brutally pragmatic. He tells Isabel, you will learn that a lot of things are possible, and he forces her to leave Paris despite her, fervent pleas to stay and fight. He insists, I've seen what they can do, Isabel, you have not. This isn't just a father protecting his daughter. It feels like the voice of an older generation, scarred by the Great War, imparting this grim wisdom about the true nature of conflict. He seems to understand the futility of individual defiance against such overwhelming force, and maybe the necessity of just immediate survival.
And Isabel's forced exodus from Paris, fleeing towards Caraveau, is depicted as this grueling, almost Dantean journey. We see her with blistered feet, hungry, joining this huge throng of her countrymen, a desperate river of humanity flowing away from the capital, carrying just a few books and clothes.
Just trying to get away.
Exactly. This isn't just a physical trek, it's her rude awakening. It shatters any romantic notions of war she might have had. And this brutal experience also introduces her to Gaetan, this scruffy stranger who quite literally saves her life during an aerial attack. This chance encounter, born out of sheer desperation, it subtly foreshadows a complicated and pivotal connection that will develop as their paths cross again later.
Meanwhile, back in Caraveau, the quiet domestic world Vianne was desperately clinging to is also being irrevocably altered. The reality of German rule descends when Marechal Petain's government divides France into the occupied and free zones. Vianne, still grasping for any shred of hope or authority, initially believes Petain is an honorable man, a hero of the last war, who has somehow saved them from further bloodshed.
She wants to believe.
She wants to believe in this protection, that a leader can somehow negotiate their safety. It's like a psychological anchor for her, a desperate plea for order in a world that's just dissolving into chaos around her.
But the immediate impact in Caraveau is chillingly concrete. German soldiers suddenly just fill the streets, a visible, undeniable presence. Windows and doors slam shut, people disappeared so quickly. This sudden, ubiquitous presence creates this palpable fear and isolation. It's no longer just a distant threat on the radio, it's this oppressive, undeniable force right outside their homes, a constant reminder of their lost autonomy. The world has literally shrunk, hasn't it? First to the village boundaries, then to their house.
And then comes the chilling town hall decree, the formal imposition of this new reality. All radios, guns, vehicles confiscated, a strict 9 p.m. curfew, food control imposed. But the truly horrifying declaration, the one that really seals the fate of countless lives, is this: any act of sabotage or espionage or resistance will be dealt with swiftly and without mercy. The punishment for such behavior is death by execution.
Just brutal.
And as a direct, crushing blow specifically to Vianne, whose husband Antoine is a PWA, they announced that French men taken prisoner shall remain in Germany. This just removes her last shred of hope for immediate normalcy for Antoine's quick return. It makes the war deeply personal, a wound right at the heart of her family.
Yeah, this news directly impacts Vianne's core desire for her family's return and safety. It shatters her illusions of a quick, peaceful resolution. It forces her to confront the permanence of their situation, the long-term reality of separation and loss. It definitely shifts her from passive hope to active, if quiet, strategizing for sheer survival.
And then, the ultimate invasion of Vianne's most sacred space.
Yeah.
Her own home. Captain Beck, a German Wehrmacht officer, is billeted at Le Jardin. His polite demeanor and his terrible French initially seem disarming, making him seem almost benign, but they can't erase the underlying threat. His very presence is a constant, suffocating reminder of who is truly in charge, of their utter lack of control.
And this moment, it truly solidifies the sisters' radically divergent paths born from their vastly different initial experiences of the war. Isabel, having witnessed the brutality of the invasion firsthand in Paris, is just enraged. She demands they leave, exclaiming, "Are you mad? We can't live with the Nazis." She insists, "I have seen what they're willing to do."
Right, she's seen it.
Vianne, in contrast, whose experience has been more insulated, by the perceived safety of her village, she argues for compliance. She's still holding on to the belief that Petain has kept us safe and that Antoine will come home if they just endure, if they just keep their heads down. It's a fundamental clash of worldviews, isn't it? Isabel's defiant refusal to compromise versus Vianne's desperate attempt at survival through appeasement, through quiet endurance. This really sets the stage for the different forms of courage they will each embody.
That clash just immediately throws them onto completely different trajectories. It's really fascinating to see how they each choose to survive or resist or simply endure. Okay, let's move into Section 3, diving deep into these divergent paths of resistance and survival. First, we have Isabel, the impetuous spirit who, through a series of increasingly daring acts, becomes the legendary Nightingale. Even early on, she's performing these immediate, deeply personal acts of rebellion. How does her defiance start to manifest?
Well, Isabel's defiance, unlike Vianne's quiet endurance, it begins with these overt, albeit initially small, acts. She immediately sets about hiding the family's valuables in the barn to prevent German requisition, things like sentimental heirlooms, her mother's pearls, Vianne's wedding dress. These aren't just practical acts, they're symbolic refusals, right? Refusals to let the Germans take what is theirs. A stubborn assertion of ownership and defiance in the face of invasion. It's a deeply personal act of resistance, protecting her family's legacy.
And she escalates pretty quickly, doesn't she? Marking her territory, so to speak, with that defiant V for victory chalk mark on a German propaganda poster. It's such a tiny gesture, but incredibly dangerous, and it definitely puts her on the radar of the nascent French resistance. This is such a direct contrast to Vianne's desire for invisibility. Isabel actively wants to be seen to register her protest. It's almost like a cry for belonging, for a cause.
And this defiant act leads her to Henri Navarre, a communist. He initially questions her motives, her youth, her impetuousness, but he quickly recognizes her raw passion and this unwavering spirit. When she declares, with real conviction, "I heard the Gull speech on the radio," it's not just stating a fact. It signals her profound allegiance to the Free French, her decision to align herself with active resistance. She's actively seeking a way to fight back, not just react to circumstances, but to try and shape them. This connection is pivotal, moving her from just personal acts of rebellion to becoming part of a larger network.
Her very first mission already shows how quickly the mundane becomes dangerous and how, well, resourceful she is, distributing these terrorist papers under the cover of butcher paper-wrapped ham hocks.
That's so clever. Such a simple, ingenious camouflage, one that really highlights the insidious, everyday dangers of resistance, where ordinary items become tools of defiance. And after this first successful act, the source says she feels invincible. There's this surge of purpose that clearly ignites something profound within her. This isn't just about fighting the enemy, it's about finding herself, finding her strength in action.
Her journey deepens significantly with a far more perilous assignment, delivering a very important letter to Paris. And this is where her father, Julien Rossignol, this quiet man who we discover has been a secret participant in the resistance all along, provides her with blank identity papers, a vital, potentially life-saving tool for her new identity as Juliette Gervais.
A huge risk for him, too.
Absolutely. In his solemn warning, you will trust absolutely no one, and you will not be Isabelle Rossignol at all anymore. It just underscores the immense personal cost of this path. The shedding of her former self for the sake of the mission is a moment of profound transformation, really, of becoming someone new in order to survive and resist. And here's where she truly steps into her legendary role as the Nightingale. The pivotal moment arrives when she encounters a downed RAF pilot, Lieutenant Torrance McLeish. Despite the severe penalty for aiding Allied airmen, imprisonment or even death, Isabelle, driven by this immediate, desperate need to help, shelters him.
Just instinct.
Pure instinct. This spontaneous act of compassion, this fundamental human response to another's suffering, it solidifies her shift from just being a courier to becoming a passeur, a guide for those seeking freedom. It's a real leap of faith, a moment of profound moral clarity for her.
And what follows is this audacious, almost unbelievable plan, leading down airmen across the treacherous Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. Madame Babineau and Eduardo become her critical contacts in this incredibly dangerous endeavor, facilitating the escape network. She's literally described as a girl leading pilots across the Pyrenees, a stark image that inspires both doubt from some, understandably, and immense admiration from others.
It's extraordinary.
The sheer scale of this operation, moving dozens of men, many of them injured, across hostile territory, through mountains that are themselves a formidable enemy, it's extraordinary for someone her age, or frankly, for anyone without specialized training. It highlights the incredible power of human ingenuity and courage when you're pushed right to the brink.
The journey itself sounds absolutely grueling, demanding almost superhuman endurance. The source details the immense physical toll, biting, burning cold that freezes your breath, blisters the size of dinner plates from endless walking, and this constant gnawing hunger gnawed at her stomach. Yet her leadership, her determination, they are crucial, pushing exhausted airmen forward, sometimes by invoking their deepest motivations, reminding them of loved ones back home. Get on your feet for Alice, Teddy.
Wow.
This wasn't just about physical strength. It was about psychological fortitude, wasn't it? About tapping into the deepest reserves of willpower, both her own and those she was guiding.
And the constant threat is just ever-present. They're navigating through absolute darkness over slick shale, avoiding patrols with dogs, and the ever-present danger of getting lost, falling, or being shot by German or sometimes French patrols. Every single step is fraught with peril. The relief of seeing those lights twinkled in the distance, signifying the border into Spain, must have been just an overwhelming flood of emotion, a momentary triumph against truly impossible odds. Each successful crossing, each life saved, is just a testament to extraordinary courage and resilience.
Now, while Isabelle is waging this impetuous, overt war of resistance in the mountains, we can't forget the profound emotional cost of this life, especially for her and her complicated connection with Gaetan. Their reunion, where it turns out he's been following and protecting her, reveals this deep, unspoken bond, a tenderness that really belies their harsh reality. But his decision to join armed resistance with guns and bombs, it heightens the stakes of their relationship even further, doesn't it? Cementing them both firmly on paths of extreme danger.
Yeah, absolutely. And their poignant goodbyes, they reflect the brutal reality of wartime love, a love lived constantly on the precipice. Every time we kiss, it's goodbye. Isabel acknowledges with this raw vulnerability she hadn't often shown before, "I could die, Gaetan," making their fleeting moments together incredibly precious, but also fraught with this underlying current of fear.
Hmm.
This expression of her feelings, despite her feels of rejection and the looming threat of loss, it demonstrates her evolving maturity, I think. She's no longer just the rebellious girl, she's a woman facing the stark realities of life and love in a war zone, choosing to be present, to feel, even in the face of inevitable heartache.
Well, Isabel is embodying this fiery, overt resistance. Vienne is fighting a completely different kind of battle back in Caraveau, a quiet war of survival within her own home, within her own heart.
Yeah.
What does her sort of domestic resilience look like under the suffocating reality of the German occupation?
Well, Vienne's life transforms into this daily grind of profound shortages and continuous adaptation. Food is scarce, basic necessities like water, gas, electricity are intermittent or completely cut off, forcing this return to, well, forced self-sufficiency. She expands her garden to feed her family. She takes in washing for others in exchange for meager rations. These are not glamorous acts, are they? But they're quiet, determined acts of resilience, designed simply to keep her family afloat, to maintain some semblance of normalcy and survival for her daughter Sophie. This is the shadow war so many women fought, often unseen.
Right.
It's an insight into how courage isn't always overt defiance. Sometimes it's the quiet, invisible strength required just to maintain the very fabric of life.
And in this desperate fight for survival, she develops this reluctant and deeply uncomfortable reliance on Captain Beck, the German officer billeted in her home. She bravely asks him for the list of POWs, demonstrating a pragmatic ability to navigate the occupation's official channels for crucial information about Antoine. Her procurement of official postcards to write to the men in camps reveals this quiet, community-oriented act of support, even if it draws local gossip, with people hinting about my German.
Yeah, that's risky.
Such a delicate dance, fraught with moral compromise.
And Beck's character is a masterstroke of ambiguity by Hannah, complicating Vienne's moral landscape significantly. He's not a one-dimensional villain. He provides her with antibiotics for Sophie's persistent cough, demonstrating this surprising and unexpected humanity. He also brings her news of Antoine from the POW camp, which is a lifeline of information in a world of silence. Their starlight conversation, where they kind of bond over shared loneliness and being far from loved ones, it's a moment of profound, if unsettling, connection. It forces Vienne, and us as listeners, I think, to confront the uncomfortable shades of gray in wartime, the realization that humanity, even fleetingly, can exist across enemy lines. This is a crucial detail often overlooked in more black and white historical narratives.
But then, the truly dark shadow of the Holocaust falls directly upon Caraveau, a brutal escalation of the occupation's horror. We get the chilling introduction of the yellow stars, Rachel's anguish at having to stitch GY onto her clothes, the profound, gut-wrenching fear for her daughter Sarah, and the immediate, terrifying threat of immediate arrest for noncompliance. This isn't just a political decree, it's a direct, deeply personal assault on identity and safety.
In this terrifying and escalating context, Mother Superior Marie-Therese offers this powerful, deceptively simple counsel. You're not the one in charge. Ask for help when you need it, and give help when you can. This isn't an order to resist, exactly, but it's a profound ethical imperative that subtly influences Vienne's subsequent choices. It gently pushes her towards action, even when she feels utterly helpless and overwhelmed by the scale of the evil. It's a call to find agency and compassion.
And then the full devastation of the Veldiv roundup, which people thought was confined to Paris, extends its reach to Caraveau. The systematic rounding up of foreign-born Jews, even those who had fought for France or lived there for decades, reveals a terrifying truth. The brutal reality of French police assisting the Germans in these arrests is particularly gut-wrenching. The Veldiv roundup, where French police chillingly assisted the Germans in arresting over 13,000 Jews, including children, in Paris and extending to places like Caraveau, it just reveals the profound moral abyss of collaboration and the shattering of trust within the community. It really deepens the stakes for Vienne's eventual impossible decision.
And this leads to Vienne's pivotal, transformative moment, a decision that truly defines her character and her war. At the train station, Rachel, in this act of desperate, heart-wrenching maternal love, makes a desperate plea. Take my son, save him. Vienne's immediate, courageous decision is born from a profound realization that no one can stand idly by anymore. She understands that no one could be neutral, not anymore. And as afraid as she was of risking Sophie's life, she was suddenly more afraid of letting her daughter grow up in a world where good people did nothing to stop evil.
Wow.
This isn't a calculated choice, it's an instinctive moral imperative that overrides all her fear. It's a powerful illustration of how the greatest acts of courage can emerge from the most desperate circumstances, driven by compassion and this deep sense of moral duty.
It's an incredible life-altering shift for Vianne. And then comes the profound sacrifice, a moment of just unbearable grief and impossible choice. Sarah's tragic death, shot during the escape, leaves Vianne with this raw, agonizing grief. She buries Sarah with Rachel, a deeply personal and harrowing act. Then comes the gut-wrenching decision to take Rachel's son Ari and give him a new identity as Daniel. Never again would she call him Ari or even think of him as Ari, she vows, understanding the absolute necessity of erasing his past for his survival.
She has to.
She has to. She even sells her cherished mother's pearls to survive, to get food and safety for the children, highlighting her increasing desperation and the mounting tangible cost of protecting this child who is not her own, yet is now inextricably her responsibility. This is a mother's war, isn't it? Fought with every fiber of her being.
But the ultimate price for Vianne, the deepest violation, comes with the billeting of Sturmbannführer von Richter, who replaces the ambiguous Captain Beck. Von Richter is far more ruthless, openly sadistic, signaling a darker, truly oppressive phase of the occupation. He immediately requisitions her family's belongings, makes these condescending and cruel remarks like, if your men hadn't been such cowards, you women wouldn't be so hungry, and openly displays his power, asserting dominance in every single interaction. He represents the true, unvarnished brutality of the Nazi regime.
And then, Vianne's ultimate act of silent, harrowing resistance. She endures repeated sexual assault by von Richter, not for herself, but to protect her children, specifically to ensure Daniel's safety. She deliberately keeps silent, avoids resistance, recognizing the terrifying calculus, if you look at me, Daniel stays. Her shame and profound emotional cost are just palpable in her internal monologue, a deep, private wound, and her later, heartbreaking, almost whispered admission to Sophie. That's my war. I am just a mother trying to keep her children safe.
Oh, heartbreaking.
It's a silent, invisible martyrdom, a sacrifice that she believes would destroy her if revealed, yet one she makes without hesitation for her children. It powerfully underscores the hidden, often unacknowledged burdens women carried in wartime.
And the tragic irony is almost unbearable. Her pregnancy with von Richter's child, a child she had prayed for years with Antoine, now becomes this cruel reminder of her violation. It underscores the profound violation and the layers of silent sacrifice she endures, the way war doesn't just take lives, but twists and corrupts even the most intimate aspects of existence. Her body itself becomes a battleground, a testament to the unquantifiable costs of survival.
The war finally begins to draw to an end, but the legacies for both sisters are profound, complex, and deeply personal. Let's look at Isabel's ordeal and eventual liberation. Her capture and interrogation are brutal, a testament to the Nazis' relentless pursuit of resistance fighters. Yet, even under unimaginable torture, she embodies this incredible mental and spiritual strength, repeating a mantra to herself, "It doesn't hurt, it's just my body, they can't touch my soul." She steadfastly refuses to betray names, enduring unimaginable pain, starved, subjected to extreme cold. Her internal fortitude is truly extraordinary.
This brutal interrogation leads to her father's final, heartbreaking act of love and sacrifice. Julien Rossignol, the quiet man who had secretly supported the resistance, he confesses to being the nightingale to spare Isabel. It's a revelation that unveils his own hidden resistance work, his quiet, enduring courage. And Isabel, in turn, in this desperate, futile attempt to protect him, tries to reclaim the identity to save him. It's this tragic dance of self-sacrifice between father and daughter, underscoring their deep, if complicated, bond.
And then, the horrors of Ravensbrück concentration camp. The description of the giant room full of showerheads immediately evokes the unspeakable terror of the gas chambers, even if that wasn't its primary function in that specific place at that time. She learns her new home is Ravensbrück, a concentration camp just for women who resisted the Nazis. It's a place designed to break the spirit, to dehumanize, to extinguish hope itself.
Her survival in the camp is a harrowing testament to human resilience, not just individually, but collectively. Isabel finds strength not by withdrawing, but by actively helping other women, sharing whispers of home, tiny fragments of hope, and trying to keep alive some memory of who they'd been. This mutual support, these small acts of humanity, become vital forms of resistance in themselves. They are all under the constant chilling threat of being worked to death or gassed to death, making every small act of connection, every shared memory, a vital assertion of their humanity. It speaks to the incredible power of community even in the darkest of places.
And then, After unimaginable suffering, liberation finally arrives. The arrival of American trucks. The source describes her physical and mental exhaustion as profound, the sheer weight of her ordeal evident as she whispers, "We made it." It's a moment of immense, almost unfathomable relief, but also a stark reminder of the incredible toll, the permanent scars left by such a hellish experience. Freedom comes, but it doesn't just erase the past, does it?
No, absolutely not. And for Vienne, the post-war burdens are equally heavy, albeit different in their manifestation. Antoine returns, but he is physically and emotionally scarred, his arm broken and badly reset, a visible symbol of his own suffering. Vienne immediately senses this chasm between them, a silent understanding that the war has irrevocably changed them both. She makes the agonizing choice not to reveal the sexual assault or the child she carries, believing it would destroy them, that it would be too heavy a burden for Antoine and for their marriage.
Such a weight to carry.
An immense weight. Her choice to forget the past and go on is both an act of profound protection for her family and a deeply personal burden she carries alone, a secret that becomes a part of her very identity. It speaks to the silence many women maintained after the war, their sacrifices unacknowledged even by those closest to them.
And then comes the second, agonizing goodbye. A different kind of wound for Vienne. The Red Cross, in its mission to reunite families, tracks Daniel, who is really Ari to Vienne's home, demanding his return to his Jewish family. Despite her profound love for him, a love forged in the fires of shared trauma and sacrifice, Vienne understands that Ari needs to be who he is and to be with his people.
Oh, that's tough.
It's harrowing. The farewell, where she makes him say his new name Daniel one last time, a final acknowledgement of their shared, hidden history, is just a tearful testament to her incredible sacrifice. She gives up the child she saved, the child who became her reason for fighting her own quiet war, understanding that true love sometimes means letting go.
When the sisters are finally reunited, Isabelle is profoundly changed, physically and mentally broken and sick, with painful memory gaps. Yet Vienne cares for her with this unwavering devotion, a deep maternal love that seems to transcend their past conflicts. And in a quiet, incredibly vulnerable moment, Isabelle offers this poignant apology. "I'm sorry about Beck. Forgive me for the way I put you and Sophie in danger." It's a moment of immense vulnerability, isn't it? A recognition of her own impulsiveness, and a raw attempt at reconciliation for the deep divisions that had defined their wartime relationship. It shows the lingering guilt and the desire for peace between them, finally.
Vienne's symbolic act of remembrance, tying scraps of fabric to an apple tree for each person lost or separated, becomes such a poignant and deeply moving symbol of their collective trauma. The tree itself poignantly had died and the fruit had turned bitter, reflecting the lingering trauma, the way the war's impact twists and corrupts even the natural world. It's a physical manifestation of the grief and the enduring scars of loss that touch everything.
Isabelle's peaceful passing, years later, with her final words, "My life, it's enough," offers a powerful sense of closure to her painful, tumultuous journey. It's an acknowledgement, perhaps, of the fullness of a life lived with extraordinary courage and purpose, no matter how brief or difficult it was. It's a final acceptance of her identity as the Nightingale and as a woman who truly lived.
And now, back to 1995, and the profound revelation that brings our deep dive full circle. The elderly Vienne's journey to the Passeurs reunion in Paris is telling. Her son Julien perceives her as weak and incomplete, still completely oblivious to the monumental sacrifices his mother made. But Vienne's decision to walk to the reunion, insisting with this quiet determination, "I am also French," it foreshadows the truth she is finally ready to unveil. It's an assertion of her own overlooked heroism, a quiet defiance of her son's limited perception.
Vienne's speech at the reunion is the culmination of her entire journey, isn't it? A moment of profound public acknowledgement and personal liberation. She finally reveals the true, untold story of Isabelle's heroism as the Nightingale. And in a moment of raw honesty, she admits her own initial disbelief and judgment of her sister, confessing, "I believed her," about the affair she suspected.
Right.
This isn't just about telling Isabelle's story, it's about reclaiming her own truth, confronting her past judgments, and honoring the sister she profoundly misunderstood. It's a powerful act of setting the historical record straight, not just for the world, but maybe most importantly for herself.
Julian's astonishment is palpable, a reflection of a wider societal ignorance, perhaps. He questions why he's never heard these stories, exclaiming, "Hell, I didn't even know that people escaped over the mountains, or that there was a concentration camp just for women who resisted the Nazis." It really highlights how much of history, particularly the immense contributions and unique suffering of women, remains untold, relegated to the shadows of grander, usually male-centric narratives of warfare. A shocking realization for him and for us, the listener, of how much is actively forgotten or simply never recorded.
And this leads directly to Vianne's powerful and defining statement, her core insight, the very heart of the novel's message. Men tell stories, women get on with it. For us, it was a shadow war. There were no parades for us when it was over, no medals or mentions in history books. This isn't bitterness speaking, it's a profound, clear-eyed observation. It reveals the quiet, unacknowledged heroism of women whose acts of bravery were often performed in the domestic sphere, in the shadows, or in secret, without fanfare, without public recognition. It challenges us all to reconsider what heroism truly means and who its unsung heroes really are.
And she ends with a final, quiet admission to her son, and really to us, the listener, that encapsulates her incredible journey. I survived. Followed by the unspoken yet profoundly felt truth, a testament to resilience and connection. The truth of it is that we survive, together, against all odds. It's a powerful and moving conclusion, not just to her story, but to this entire deep dive into how identity is forged in the crucible of war, in ways both grand and agonizingly intimate.
It's a powerful testament, truly, to the multifaceted nature of courage and the enduring impact of war on individuals, on families. We've seen how vastly different forms of resistance, from Isabel's overt defiance as the Nightingale, leading countless souls to freedom, to Vianne's unseen sacrifices as a mother protecting her children, bearing the invisible wounds of a silent war, shaped not just their lives, but the very fabric of history. Their stories challenge the conventional narratives of heroism, proving that courage manifests in countless ways, often hidden from the public eye.
As you reflect on Vianne and Isabel's journeys, on their intertwined yet distinct paths of survival and resistance, what moments of revelations truly resonated with you? Did their experiences challenge your perceptions of heroism, maybe? Or of the impossible compromises one might be forced to make in the face of overwhelming evil?
And the story highlights that profound truth. Men tell stories, women get on with it. This really prompts us to consider what other shadow wars might exist in history, fought by those whose narratives are often overlooked, whose acts of bravery go unrecorded in the grand chronicles. Think of the countless women, children, marginalized communities whose resilience and sacrifices often remain outside the official historical record.
What might we gain as individuals and as a society by actively seeking out and acknowledging these countless uncelebrated acts of resilience and sacrifice, not just in our past, but in our present? How might our understanding of human strength and the true cost of conflict deepen if we really expanded our view of who gets to be a hero? Something to think about long after this deep dive concludes.